First of all, thanks a lot. Is it working? Yeah. Thanks a lot for letting us take the stage and talk about something other than that what we are really famous for. Any guesses? Our testing culture, A/B testing. First of all, very good evening to all of you. And I can see that we are heading towards the last stretch of our program today, and so energies would be down. But I'll try and make sure that we get this done fast. I'm Rachit. I work on the topic of web performance at Booking.com, which also happens to be our agenda for today. I've been hearing a lot about site speed and all those things throughout the day. But me and my friend Volodymyr would try and share our learnings with you, what we have learned while working on this topic at Booking.com, and why do we think that performance really matters. Before we start, I'd like to share some things about Booking.com with you. We are based out of Amsterdam, and which is where we were established in 1996. Still, most of our technology and product teams are based out of the same location. We have been helping our customers to plan and manage their trips with us for a long time. And today, we are proud to share that approximately 1.5 million room nights are booked on our platform every day. To support this, we have a staff of more than 15,000 people working in different locations on functions such as customer service, technology, marketing, all of them united by a single mission to empower people to experience the world. We believe life is made of experiences, and nothing should stand in their way. We have been constantly working on solving this problem for us, for our users. For this, it is important that our platforms work seamlessly, irrespective of the network conditions our users are on, the devices they use, or the locations they are from. And that is what motivates us to focus on performance. But what I'm most excited about today is to share with you the story of our culture, how data, experiments, hypotheses, and most importantly, focusing on the needs of our customers is very valuable to us. How we go about solving a problem by taking the smallest step to challenge our riskiest assumption, failing fast, learning from that, and keep moving in the right direction. So hence, today, this is more of a story of our culture. Before I start, I'm going to ask you a show of hands, how many of your product owners or product managers in the room today? Great. By the way, we are always hiring, so just keep that in mind. So let me ask you, so at some point of your product journey, you would have thought about, am I focusing on the right things? Am I investing my time in the right things? Am I solving the right problems for my users? This is the question I keep asking myself every day, and that's what keeps all of us going forward. The question is, how do you start thinking about performance as an issue? And which is the first part of my talk, performance for dummies, or in this case, product owners. So how do we get started? When I started working on this topic at Booking.com, the first thing which I did was to find out for myself, does this problem actually exist? Sitting in our offices, in front of our desktops, on fast Wi-Fi broadband connections, next to our servers, we might not even realize if this is a problem. So what we need to do is, first of all, pick up our phones, switch to 2G or 3G, connect to a public Wi-Fi, and try doing simple things such as search, or try out applying a filter. You will see how painful it gets to use your product. It has more benefits than that, you can see. But yeah, this is an early start. You can start investigating, is there a problem or not? Once we know there is a problem, so yeah, and other thing is you can, if you're not using this on mobile phones, you can switch to Chrome. Chrome allows you to change the network speeds, simulate that behavior. Not just Chrome, all the browsers, all the major browsers out there allow you to do this, and you will find a lot of problems. At this point, you know there is a problem. But how do we investigate, how can we solve for this? And this is where probably doing a lighthouse audit of your product would help you. Lighthouse also has an API, which you can integrate with your systems and test your code while in deployment or while in testing. It does two things. First of all, it gives you a breakdown of different aspects of your website. You can see performance being one of the key things. And the second thing, if you notice here, it gives you the opportunities which you can work on. All these opportunities are ranked by how much impact they can create on your product, and this is a good start for you to prioritize things. So now we know there is a problem. We have a slight idea about how to solve it. But what is the opportunity? How do we start thinking about what are we missing out on? This is where Google gives us, I think you have heard about these tools, but I'll try and explain how it works. First of all, you can benchmark yourself against your competition to see where you stand. The next thing is about the impact calculator. You can punch in your basic numbers as much as average monthly visitors, conversion rate, and then start thinking in terms of money, how much actually you can make if you start focusing on performance. So yeah, now moving on. We know what needs to be done. We know what is the size of opportunity, but how do we measure these things? That is where you have to start thinking in terms of how users perceive these changes. What goes on in their minds when they actually interact with our websites? The first thing which happens in a user's mind is when they start loading a page, is it actually happening? Has the navigation started? Am I going to see something? This is where metrics such as first paint, wall clock, things like these would be important. The next question which comes to their mind is it going to be useful? If I wait for this stuff, would I be actually using it? And that is a point where metrics such as first contentful paint, speed index comes into the picture. I'll show you an example right here. Like if you see, the first paint is when you get the first signal of something is loading. First contentful paint is you get more information, there is a search box. First meaningful paint is around where you actually start seeing stuff. Going back to this, the next question which they ask is, whatever I'm seeing, is it going to be useful? Can I interact with it? Can I probably click on the search button? All these things can be measured by metrics such as time to interactive, DOM content loaded, which means all the JavaScript and CSS has loaded and the page is ready to be used. And finally, whatever I've waited for, is it delightful? Does it have any lags? Can I get feedback on all my interactions? In this case, metrics such as first input delay, time to first input delay, time to first input will be useful for you. So right now, this is where we see that the entire page has been built. Moving on. At this point, I'll also ask you to start collecting your own data. To look at the competitive data, look at external sources, is good for early investigations. But if you really want to look at how you are making changes to your website and how predictable these results are, it is important to start collecting your own data. At Booking.com, all the experiments that we run, we collect performance metrics around that. It allows us to measure intended or unintended changes which might happen due to your experiments or your changes on the website. So yeah, all of this sounds simple, like, yeah, everyone should get it, but what is the catch? The next part of my talk is going to be about dealing with challenges that we faced at Booking.com. The first challenge that we faced is, how do we make sense of all these performance metrics? When we talk about metrics, it's usually black and white. User has done the search or not. User has added the item to the cart or not. Has made a booking or not. Has read the article or not. But when it comes to performance, things start falling into the gray area, which means saying things like the average site speed has increased by 200 milliseconds doesn't make any sense. You have to put things in perspective, which saying that 5% of our users are waiting 5 painful longer seconds to see the search results is a better explanation of this. And that's why I would say, when you're looking at performance metrics, you should start looking at the percentiles rather than the mean. The second challenge that we faced was, how do we prove to ourselves that performance is the right problem to focus on? At Booking.com, we believe that unless it is proven, it does not exist. We had read about the case studies around this. We knew that there is a lot of evidence around the web, but we really wanted to find this for ourselves, and preferably with our own data. So what did we do? It would have taken a lot more time to invest in improving the site speed, so we decided to slow things down and see if this is a problem. Let me tell you, when we slowed things down, we could conclusively prove that it starts hurting our users. So users start bouncing, they start converting less. At this point, you have to realize that proving this hypothesis in one direction, saying that slowing down a website hurts user, is not going to prove in the opposite direction. But it does tell you that if you do not focus on this, there will be gradual degradation on your product due to adding new features, adding new things on your search results page, and you will reach a stage where your website will be slowed down. Even a slightest slowdown of 200 milliseconds can start hurting your users. The third challenge, yes, we had a lot of successes with this, but there were failures. At this point, you have to understand that when we talk about improving performance for our users, some of the things start hurting them. The fastest website would be a single HTML page which says, need a hotel, probably call me. Like, that would be the fastest website which would load immediately. We wanted to test with low resolution images for our users. We thought that probably it might not be evident for our users. That did not work for us. So what are we doing about it? We are trying to segment our users in a way that users who are probably on a slow connection are receiving the low resolution images, versus ones who are on fast connections are seeing the high definition images. All these results are encouraging for us, but what lies ahead? Today, performance is an important topic to focus on Booking.com, but what are the bigger bets which we are making? While working on performance, one thing which I've realized is that there are two parts to this problem. First of all, we have to keep making improvements to our website and also stop the degradation. Hence, we are investing in performance budget, which means we'll be setting up SLIs and SLOs on performance, saying things like all the pages should load within 5 seconds, 10 seconds. That sort of investment requires much more commitment. When we set up SLIs and SLOs, I'm sorry, if you're not familiar with these terms, SLIs and SLOs would mean go through the SRE handbook, but in short, it means that we have high standards on how much time it should take our pages to load, and we'll set up ownership around this so that when it is violated, we fix them and then move ahead. We also realize that there is a limit to optimizations. We can only do certain things while trying to optimize site for the performance. We probably might be at a local maxima right now, and to reach a global maxima, we have to start things from scratch, invest in a new tech stack, or things like these. Finally, all of it, why does it matter? Why do we think that performance matters? I'll conclude with this. First thing is, fast web is here. We have heard it throughout the day that browsers, search engines are caring about performance. So if you do not have a fast website, it will start getting difficult for you to acquire users. You'll probably end up paying more for them. So that's why we should start investing in performance, because our competition is doing it. The world is going mobile only, not just first. Most of the things people do are not going to be sitting in front of their desktop in the comfort of their homes. They'll be doing it on the go. And that is why focusing on experience of their mobile products is really important. If they get one thing done fast, they'll do more things, and that think about engagement. And eventually, yes, we do know that users hate to wait. They do not care about how much CSS or JavaScript you have on your pages. They just want to get their job done. So do it for your users. In the second part of our talk, Volodymyr will share some of the experiences which he has done to make improvements on our website. Over to Volodymyr.
Thanks, Rachit. So my name is Volodymyr. Hey, everyone. And before I will start, I have a question for you. Have you ever thought why Google is pushing so hard for the performance? Like, really? What's the difference of loading a website 100 milliseconds faster? It's literally less than a blink of an eye, right? How can this make an impact on conversion? In Booking.com, for a long time, we haven't seen the impact as well. But nowadays, performance is one of the top priorities of the company. And it happened because there is a different perspective on this 100 milliseconds. A perspective from the point of the users with slow internet connection. And today, we will be actually viewing on it from their point of view. Let me tell you a short story that happened with me a year and a half ago. I was on vacation with my family. It was already a late evening, and we were going to our hotel. To get to it, we had to cross a mountain. And we just started to traverse it, then a huge rain began. Have you ever tried to drive on a winding road while it's raining? I can definitely tell you I'm not a huge fan of it. So we decided to find a hotel nearby. We stopped on the side of a road. I've tried to open booking.com, but do you know what happened? Because the network signal was very slow, it took me a couple of minutes to open a single page. How long it could take to book? Maybe a couple of hours. And it didn't work for us. The situation was terrible. The rain became heavier and heavier. We were really tired, and our little son had to go to sleep soon. And the only thing we could do was find the Wi-Fi somewhere. Was anything good in the end of this situation? Yes. First, now I know a great restaurant with a nice view on Verona. And second, I had an idea. I was wondering, how many of our customers are struggling because of the slow connection? Because slow connection might happen not only in the mountain. It can be in the train or metro, in the bar on the basement, or in the mall. It can be anywhere. And in this case, if you have a really slow connection, these 100 milliseconds, then we are testing our website from our Wi-Fi in the office, right? It might take seconds or even minutes. So then I came back to the office. The first thing I've done, I've tried to understand the numbers of the people who are actually struggling. And I've set up an experiment, run it, and the results were really shocking. So 3% of our customers bounced while the page was still blank. 12% bounced before they loaded the full HTML. And 22% bounced before executing the JavaScript. The interesting fact was that I was running this experiment on the paid traffic. We paid for these users. And they didn't got the full user experience, right? Because let's tell the truth, the sites without JavaScript are not that great, right? And then I shared the result. The answer was, yeah, OK, well, but why do you think they bounced because of the performance? Maybe they just clicked on ad by mistake, or they didn't see what they want, and that's why they bounced. But a couple of weeks ago, I was in that situation, right? And I knew that at least some of our customers need a faster website. So I started to think, how can I prove it? Why do they bounce? Maybe they open the site, but something is not working. Like, imagine a situation. You open the website. You see the button there. You click on it, but it doesn't work. Is that a good user experience? Probably not. And you know what? We had this kind of buttons. So I knew that people who applied sort converts better. And our sort button was not working before document ready. So I simply made it work. I've run an A/B test, and the results were amazing. Thousands of users per day use the sorting before document ready. And yes, the experiment was positive in conversion. We finally had a proof that improving the performance is beneficial for our customers. You may argue and say, yeah, maybe this is just booking.com problem, right? And our button works. But before coming here, I've made a small analysis of some other websites. And let's start with this one. So it's Amazon.com. And this is loading of it on 100 kilobytes per second. There is a small filter button. Maybe you don't see it here in the top. And I'm trying to click on it, but nothing happens. I can scroll. I can actually go to the product page, but filter doesn't work. Well, on this side, probably filter is quite small. So let's open Walmart. The filter sort filter button is bigger here. And you can even see how I'm tapping on it. But it doesn't work as well. OK, maybe it's still quite small. This is the lander, right? We have the bold filter button. You see I'm tapping on that, but nothing happens. Can you please raise your hands who has sort of filter button on their website? Yeah, quite a few. So you might have this problem as well, because probably 73% of top websites have this issue too. And it happens because of using the jQuery, the most popular JavaScript library in the world. And in its documentation, it's advised to execute the JavaScript only after document ready. In other words, then all the HTML and all the JavaScript files would be loaded. But what if user needs something before document ready? Because if you have a slow connection, you may have it only in a couple of minutes, right? In this case, you should optimize your website for slow connection users. And in general, it's just following one simple rule. you need to load things user want first, and not load things they don't want. And let's try it on practice. Let's think how we will be optimizing this page. How do you think? What's the most important functionality here? Any ideas? Yeah, probably that's add to cart, because, yeah, believe me, if user isn't able to add the product to the cart, he might never be your customer, right? So in this case, it's very useful to inline the JavaScript. Inline means that you take your JavaScript from the bundle and put it into the HTML just after this button. So when it appears in the user screen, it will just work. But you should understand that if you're inline something, you're making all things that come in after that to load slower. And who has login functionality on their website? Can you please raise your hands? OK. On this side, we also have a login functionality. And after document's ready, if user clicks on the icon, he sees this nice model. And in this case, if he will tap before document's ready, nothing will happen again, right? But the amount of CSS, JS, and HTML for it is quite big. And if we will inline it, all the other features we had, they will be loading much slower. So people who actually want to see the images or to add the product to the cart, they should wait until the model would be loaded. And in this case, it would be a good idea to create a separate page, not a model. And if a person clicks on an icon to log in, simply drive them to that page. And if after document's ready, yeah, show the model. We can go even bolder here. We can remove this model from the loading of HTML at all and load it only by demand. So if the customer wants to log in, he clicks on the button, and after that only we load the JavaScript, CSS, and HTML that's needed for that model. And this can also work for some blocks in the end of the page, like free delivery block or a phone number. So we load the main content, we execute the JavaScript, and only after that we load in some not very important blocks that we have. But this is actually just some minor features or just particular features. And what about in general, what can we do for the whole website? And it was mentioned before today that let's start with a critical rendering path. So critical path is inlining part of the CSS that is needed for the above the fold content. Why it's important? Do you remember that 3% of our customers bounced before they even see the page, right? You can see the blank page, the blank content, and you don't know if it's loading or not, how is it working. And in this situation, it would be much better if you inline part that is needed just for the above the fold content. So you will load the main page, you will render that in the browser, and after that, then all the other CSS that was loaded asynchronously would be loaded. We will show some things that are not that important, that are below the fold. Second thing is making bundles. Imagine we have logged in and logged out customers. And our logged in customers have this block with a previous order, let's say. But nowadays, it's common to have one CSS bundle for everyone. And in this case, you're making your logged in customers load CSS for logged out customers, load CSS for logged in customers that they might never use, right? They might never be logged in. And in this case, it would be a good approach to create two bundles. One default bundle that you will be loading for everyone. And the second one, logged in bundle that you will be loading only for customers that are logged in. And this approach can be used if you have some features for different countries, for instance. So if you got some particular feature just for US visitors, you can make a US bundle and not load it for guys from Great Britain, for instance. The third thing is clean up the code. Always clean up the code, because every day we create new features, we remake others, and we delete some as well. But it might happen that they still will stay in your CSS and JS. And in this case, you will be loading users additional content that they will never see. And if you're not cleaning up your code on a daily basis, it would be much harder to actually remove it in the future. At the end of my talk, I would like to tell you that when you are thinking about slow connection users, think about yourself, because every day, everyone has a chance to be on a slow connection. Thank you.